Marcus Rivera sat in the back of the taxi, watching the desert roll past his window. The California sun beat down on the empty road that led to his grandfather's old gas station. His left leg hurt where the doctors had cut it off below the knee. The new metal leg felt heavy and wrong, but not as heavy as the weight in his chest. The taxi driver kept looking at him in the mirror. Marcus knew what he was thinking. Another broken soldier coming home from the war. Another young man who went away whole and came back in pieces. Marcus had gotten used to those looks over the past 6 months. "You sure this is the right place?" the driver asked as they pulled up to a rundown gas station. The sign was faded, and half the letters were missing. Weeds grew through cracks in the concrete. An old dog was lying in the shade of the building. "Yeah, this is it," Marcus said. He paid the driver and grabbed his single bag. The taxi drove away quickly, leaving him alone with dust and silence. The old dog lifted his head and looked at Marcus. The animal was big, maybe a German shepherd, but his fur was gray and his eyes were cloudy. One of his back legs seemed stiff when he stood up. The dog walked over slowly and sniffed Marcus's hand. "You must be Rex," Marcus said. His grandfather had mentioned the dog in his letters. "Guess we're both stuck here now." The funeral had been 3 days ago. Marcus had flown in from the Veterans Hospital just for the service. He planned to sell the gas station and fly back to figure out what to do with the rest of his life. But the lawyer had other news. "Your grandfather left specific instructions," the lawyer had said. "He wanted you to keep the station for at least 1 year, and he was very clear about the dog. Keep Rex close," he said. "Watch where he digs." Marcus thought those were strange last words, but his grandfather had always been a little odd. The old man never talked much about his time in Vietnam or what he did after the war. He just ran this gas station in the middle of nowhere and kept to himself. Now Marcus was stuck here. The lawyer said there was enough money in the bank to keep the station running for a few months, but barely. After that, Marcus would have to make it work or lose everything. He pulled out the keys and opened the front door. The inside smelled like motor oil and dust. There were shelves with a few snacks and drinks, but most were empty. The cash register looked like it was from the 1980s. Everything needed cleaning and fixing. Behind the counter, Marcus found a small apartment where his grandfather had lived. It had a bed, a kitchen table, and not much else. On the table was a note in his grandfather's handwriting. "Marcus, the station doesn't make much money, but it's honest work. Keep the old dog close. He knows things I never had time to teach. You watch where he digs, there's more here than meets the eye. Your grandfather, Frank." Marcus read the note twice. His grandfather always talked in riddles. Even as a kid, Marcus remembered Frank saying mysterious things that didn't make sense until later. He walked back outside. Rex was sitting by the gas pumps, watching the empty road. No cars had come by since the taxi left. Marcus wondered how his grandfather had made any money at all. The first customer came an hour later, a truck driver who needed gas and a bottle of water. He paid cash and asked about Frank. "Heard he passed," the driver said. "Good man. Always fair with his prices. Hope you'll do the same." "I'll try," Marcus said. He was still figuring out how to work the old gas pumps. That night, Marcus lay in his grandfather's bed and listened to the desert wind. His leg hurt and his head was full of bad memories from Afghanistan. The explosion that took his leg, his friends who didn't make it home, the nightmares that woke him up screaming. Rex lay on the floor next to the bed. The old dog seemed to understand that Marcus was hurting. When Marcus woke up from a bad dream, sweating and shaking, Rex would put his head on the bed and stay close until Marcus calmed down. The next morning, Marcus explored the property. The gas station sat on about 5 acres of desert land. There was the main building with the store and apartment. Behind it was an old maintenance shed that looked ready to fall down. Beyond that was nothing but sand, rocks, and scrub brush. Rex followed him everywhere. The dog had an odd way of walking around the property. He would go to certain spots and sniff the ground for a long time. Sometimes he would scratch at the dirt or whine softly. "What are you looking for, boy?" Marcus asked. Rex just looked at him with those cloudy eyes and wagged his tail. A woman came by in the afternoon. She was old and lived in a trailer park down the road. She bought some milk and bread. "You're Frank's grandson," she said. It wasn't a question. "You look like him when he was young, before the war changed him. Did you know him well?" Marcus asked. "Well enough. He was a private man, but a good neighbor. These last few years he got even more secretive, always walking that dog around at strange hours, dawn mostly. They'd walk in patterns around the property like they were looking for something." "Looking for what?" The woman shrugged. "Frank never said, but he was always digging holes and filling them back up. That dog would watch him do it. Smart animal, smarter than most people give him credit for." After she left, Marcus watched Rex more carefully. The dog definitely had favorite spots around the property. He would go to the same places every day and spend time sniffing and pawing at the ground. That evening, Marcus found more of his grandfather's things in a drawer. There were old photos from Vietnam and some military medals. There was also a small notebook with dates and what looked like map coordinates. The last entry was just 2 weeks before his grandfather died. "Rex knows," was all it said. Marcus looked at the dog. Rex was staring at him like he was waiting for something. "What do you know, old boy?" Marcus asked. What was Grandpa trying to tell me? Rex got up and walked to the door. He looked back at Marcus and wagged his tail. Marcus followed the dog outside. The sun was setting and the desert was turning purple and gold. Rex walked to a spot about 50 yards behind the maintenance shed. He sat down and looked at Marcus. Marcus walked over and looked at the ground. It looked like all the other ground around there. Just dirt and rocks and dead grass. But Rex kept pawing at one particular spot. "Is this where he dug?" Marcus asked. Rex barked once, which was the first sound Marcus had heard him make. Marcus went back to the shed and found an old shovel. When he came back, Rex was still sitting in the same spot. The dog watched as Marcus pushed the shovel into the hard ground. The work was difficult. The desert soil was packed tight and full of rocks. Marcus's new leg made it hard to balance while digging, but Rex sat there patiently, watching every move. After an hour, Marcus had dug down about 2 feet. Nothing but dirt and rocks. He was about to give up when the shovel hit something that wasn't dirt. Rex stood up and wagged his tail harder. Marcus cleared away more dirt with his hands. There was something metal buried in the ground. Something that didn't belong there. As the sun disappeared behind the mountains, Marcus kept digging. Rex watched and waited, like he had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. Marcus woke up screaming again. The same dream, the explosion, the heat, his friends calling for help that never came. His heart was beating so fast it hurt his chest. Sweat covered his whole body, even though the desert night was cool. Rex was already there beside the bed. The old dog put his big head on the mattress and looked at Marcus with calm eyes. Somehow this helped. Marcus reached out and pet the dog's soft fur. His breathing started to slow down. "Thanks, boy," Marcus whispered. Bad night again. It had been 2 weeks since he found the metal box in the ground. Inside were his grandfather's old military medals from Vietnam, some faded photographs, and a strange map drawn by hand. The map showed the gas station property with several spots marked with X's. One of them was where they had found the box. Marcus couldn't stop thinking about the other marks on the map. What else had his grandfather buried out there? And why? During the day, Marcus tried to run the gas station. Business was slow. Maybe 10 customers on a good day. Most were truck drivers or people who lived in the area. Everyone seemed to know. His grandfather. They all said Frank was a good man who kept to himself. "Your grandfather was different these last few years," said Joe, an old rancher who stopped by for gas. "He used to be more social, would sit and talk, but something changed. He got secretive, always walking around with that dog of his." Walking. Around where? Marcus asked. All over his property. Early in the morning mostly, before anyone else was awake. They'd walk in circles and straight lines, like they were following some kind of pattern. Marcus looked at Rex, who was lying in his usual spot by the gas pumps. The dog seemed to be listening to every word. That afternoon, Marcus decided to test something. He took the hand-drawn map and walked to the second X mark. It was near the old maintenance shed. Rex followed him, but as soon as Marcus stopped at the right spot, the dog got excited. He started sniffing the ground and pawing at the dirt. "So you do know, don't you?" Marcus said. "You know where everything is buried." Rex barked once and wagged his tail. Marcus went back for the shovel. His new leg was getting stronger from all the walking and digging. The doctors had said exercise would help, but Marcus hadn't wanted to do the physical therapy. Now he was getting stronger without meaning to. The second hole was easier to dig. Maybe his grandfather had dug this one more recently. After about an hour, Marcus hit another metal box. This one was smaller than the first. Inside were more photographs. These showed his grandfather with other soldiers, but not in Vietnam. The uniforms were different, newer. There were also some papers with government letterheads and what looked like shipping documents. One paper was dated 1975. It was about recovering stolen property from various conflicts. Marcus's grandfather's name was on it as part of a recovery team. The job was to find and secure military equipment and other valuable items that had been lost or stolen during wartime. "So that's what you did after Vietnam," Marcus said to himself. Rex was sitting next to him, watching him read. The nights were the hardest part. Marcus would try to sleep, but the dreams always came. Sometimes he dreamed about Afghanistan. Sometimes he dreamed about his friends who died there. Sometimes he just lay awake thinking about how his life had changed so completely. Rex seemed to know when the bad times were coming. The dog would get up from his spot on the floor and put his head on the bed before Marcus even started having problems. It was like Rex could sense the nightmares before they began. "How do you do that?" Marcus asked one night after waking up from another bad dream. "How do you always know?" Rex just looked at him with those wise old eyes. Marcus was starting to understand why his grandfather had loved this dog so much. During the day, Marcus watched Rex more carefully. The dog had a routine. Every morning at sunrise, he would walk around the property in a specific pattern. He would visit each of the X marks on the map, sniff the ground, and then move to the next spot. It was like Rex was checking on something, making sure everything was still there and safe. Marcus started following him on these morning walks. His new leg made it hard to keep up at first, but he was getting better at walking on the uneven ground. Rex would wait for him if he fell behind. The walks helped Marcus too. Being outside in the quiet desert morning made him feel more peaceful. For a little while, he could forget about the war and focus on something else. One morning, Marcus noticed that Rex spent extra time at one particular spot. It was behind the maintenance shed, farther out than the other marked places. Rex sniffed and pawed at the ground for a long time. He whined softly, like he was trying to tell Marcus something important. "What is it, boy?" Marcus asked. "Is there something different about this spot?" Rex looked at him and barked. Then he started digging with his paws. His old legs moved slowly, but he kept working at the dirt. Marcus got the shovel and started helping. This hole was deeper than the others. After 2 hours of digging, they still hadn't found anything. Marcus was getting tired and frustrated. "Maybe there's nothing here," he said. But Rex wouldn't give up. The old dog kept pawing at one corner of the hole. Marcus dug deeper in that corner. Finally, his shovel hit something hard, but it wasn't another small metal box. This was bigger, much bigger. Working together, Marcus and Rex uncovered what looked like the corner of a large wooden crate. It was buried much deeper than the other things. This had been hidden very carefully. As the sun got hot, Marcus decided to take a break. The crate was too big to dig up quickly. He would need more time and maybe better tools. That evening, a new customer came to the gas station. She was a middle-aged woman driving an expensive car. She didn't look like the usual customers. "You're Frank Rivera's grandson," she said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am. Did you know my grandfather?" "Not personally, but I heard he passed away. I'm Dr. Sarah Kim. I work for the government. Historical Recovery Division." Marcus felt his chest get tight. "What kind of historical recovery?" We find and return cultural artifacts that were lost or stolen during various conflicts. Your grandfather used to work with us. Unofficially, Doctor. Kim looked around the gas station. Her eyes stopped on Rex, who was watching her carefully. That's Frank's dog, isn't it? Rex? Yes, ma'am. Your grandfather always said that dog was special. Said he was trained to find things that other people couldn't find. Marcus felt like she knew more than she was saying. What kind of things? Dr. Kim smiled, but it wasn't a friendly smile. Oh, just old military equipment mostly. Nothing too exciting. But if you ever find anything that seems unusual, you should call me. She handed him a business card and drove away. Marcus looked at the card. It had a phone number but no address. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep at all. Not because of nightmares this time, but because he couldn't stop thinking about Dr. Kim and what she had said. Rex seemed restless too. The dog kept getting up and looking out the window. Around midnight, Rex went to the door and whined. Marcus let him out and followed him. The dog walked straight to the spot where they had found the large crate. Rex sat down and looked at Marcus. Even in the dark, Marcus could see the hole they had started digging. Whatever was buried there, Rex thought it was important enough to check on it in the middle of the night. What did Grandpa hide out here? Marcus asked the dog. And why did that government lady really come here? Rex didn't answer, but Marcus was starting to think that maybe some secrets were meant to stay buried, at least for now. As they walked back to the station, Marcus noticed a car parked on the road about a quarter-mile away. Its lights were off, but he could see the shape of it against the stars. Someone was watching them. Marcus and Rex went inside and locked the door. Marcus turned off all the lights and looked out the window. The car was still there. Rex lay down by the door and put his head on his paws. But his ears stayed up, listening. Marcus sat in a chair and watched the road until morning. The car didn't leave until the sun came up. Marcus couldn't get the mysterious car out of his mind. For 3 days after Dr. Kim's visit, he kept checking the road. Sometimes he thought he saw vehicles parked in the distance, but they were always too far away to be sure. Rex was acting strange too. The old dog spent more time than usual at the back of the property, near where they had found the large crate. He would sit there for hours, watching and listening. His ears would perk up at sounds that Marcus couldn't even hear. The nightmares were getting worse. Every time Marcus closed his eyes, he saw the explosion again. But now, the dreams were mixed, up with thoughts about buried secrets and government agents. He would wake up sweating and confused, not sure what was real and what was just his damaged mind playing tricks on him. On Thursday night, the dreams were so bad that Marcus couldn't go back to sleep. It was 3 a.m. when he gave up trying. Rex was already awake, sitting by the window and looking out at the dark desert. Can't sleep either, boy? Marcus asked. Rex looked at him and whined softly. Marcus put on his clothes and grabbed a flashlight. Come on, let's go for a walk. They went outside into the cool night air. The stars were bright in the clear desert sky. Marcus had forgotten how peaceful it could be out here when his mind wasn't full of war memories. Rex started walking toward the back of the property. He moved with purpose, like he had something specific in mind. Marcus followed, using his flashlight to watch for rocks and holes in the ground. When they reached the spot where the large crate was buried, Rex started digging immediately. His old paws scraped at the dirt while he whined and panted. You really want me to dig this up, don't you? Marcus said. Okay, boy, let's see what Grandpa hid down there. Marcus went back to get the shovel and a bigger flashlight. When he returned, Rex was still digging in the same spot. The dog looked up at him with urgent eyes. They worked together in the quiet night. Marcus dug while Rex used his paws to move the loose dirt out of the way. It took 2 hours to uncover enough of the crate to see what they were dealing with. It was a military supply box, painted green and marked with numbers and letters that Marcus didn't recognize. The wood was old, but still solid. It had been wrapped in plastic and sealed with some kind of waterproof coating. Marcus cleared more dirt away from the top of the crate. There was a metal latch that looked like it had been locked, but the lock was gone now. Rex sat at the edge of the hole and watched as Marcus opened the lid. Inside was another world. The crate was divided into sections with foam padding. Each section held something different. There were old documents in plastic bags, photographs wrapped in cloth, small metal objects that looked valuable, and in the center, wrapped in silk, was something that made Marcus's hands shake. It was a painting, not very big, maybe the size of a book. But even in the flashlight beam, Marcus could see that it was old and beautiful. The paint had rich colors, and the detail was incredible. In the corner was a signature that Marcus couldn't read. Under the painting were more documents. These were different from the others. They had official seals and stamps. Some were in English, but others were in languages Marcus didn't recognize. One document was in English and dated 1944. It was about art and cultural objects stolen by Nazi soldiers during World War II. The list included paintings, sculptures, jewelry, and other valuable items. Many of the items on the list had been marked as never recovered. Marcus found another document from 1975. This one had his grandfather's name on it. It was about a government program to recover stolen wartime artifacts. His grandfather had been part of a special team that tracked down lost items and brought them back to the United States. "So you were treasure hunters," Marcus said quietly. "You and your team went around the world finding stolen art and bringing it home." Rex barked softly, like he agreed. Marcus kept looking through the documents. Some of the papers showed that his grandfather's team had recovered millions of dollars worth of stolen items, but not all of them had been returned to their original owners. Some had been kept in secure storage while governments decided what to do with them. The painting in his hands was listed on several of the documents. According to the papers, it had been stolen from a Jewish family in France in 1943. The Nazis had taken it along with hundreds of other artworks. It had been missing for over 80 years. Marcus wrapped the painting back up carefully and looked at the other items in the crate. There were coins that looked ancient, small sculptures made of gold and silver, and jewelry with stones that sparkled even in the dim light. At the bottom of the crate was a leather notebook. Marcus opened it and saw his grandfather's handwriting. The first page was dated 1975. "First recovery mission complete," it said. "Retrieved 47 items from storage facility in Germany. Government says they will be returned to rightful owners, but process could take years. Some items may never find their way home. Decided to keep a few pieces safe until proper owners can be found." Marcus flipped through more pages. His grandfather had written about each item in detail, where it came from, who it had belonged to, and why he thought it needed special protection. The last entry was from just 2 months before his grandfather died. "Marcus will inherit everything. He's a good soldier like I was. He'll know what to do. Rex will help him understand. The dog knows where everything is hidden. Trust Rex. He's smarter than most people think." Marcus looked at Rex. The old dog was still sitting at the edge of the hole watching Marcus read. "You've been guarding all this, haven't you?" Marcus said. "All these years you've been protecting Grandpa's secrets." Rex's tail wagged slowly. Marcus put everything back in the crate exactly as he had found it, but he kept the notebook and one of the documents that listed all the recovered items. He needed to study these more carefully. They covered the hole, back up with dirt. By the time they finished, the sun was starting to rise in the east. Marcus was exhausted, but his mind was racing with questions. Back in the apartment, Marcus made coffee and sat at the kitchen table with his grandfather's notebook. Rex lay down on the floor but kept his eyes open, watching. The notebook told an incredible story. His grandfather and his team had spent years tracking down art and artifacts that had been stolen during various wars. They worked for the government, but they also worked on their own. When bureaucracy got in the way of returning items to their rightful owners, they sometimes took matters into their own hands. "We're not thieves," one entry said. "We're protectors. These items belong to families and cultures that lost everything. If the government can't get them home, we'll keep them safe until we can." According to the notebook, there were 5 more crates buried around the property. Each one contained different types of recovered items. The total value was impossible to calculate, but some of the individual pieces were worth millions of dollars. Marcus felt overwhelmed. He was a broken soldier trying to run a failing gas station. How was he supposed to deal with stolen Nazi art and government secrets? His cell phone rang. The caller ID showed Dr. Kim's number. "Hello, Marcus," she said when he answered. "I hope you're settling in well at your grandfather's place." "It's fine," Marcus said carefully. "I'm calling because we've had reports of some unusual activity in your area. People digging at night. I wanted to make sure everything is okay." Marcus felt his chest get tight. Someone had been watching them. "Just doing some maintenance work," he said. "The property needs a lot of fixing up." "Of course. Well, if you find anything interesting while you're fixing things up, please remember to call me. Some items are more important than they might seem." The line went quiet for a moment. Then Dr. Kim spoke again. "Oh, and Marcus? Be careful who you trust. Your grandfather learned that the hard way." She hung up before Marcus could ask what she meant. Rex got up from the floor and came over to Marcus. The dog put his head on Marcus's knee and looked up at him with those wise old eyes. "What did she mean about Grandpa learning the hard way?" Marcus asked. "What happened to him?" Rex couldn't answer, but Marcus was starting to think that his grandfather's death might not have been as natural as everyone thought. He looked out the window at the desert. Somewhere out there were 5 more crates full of priceless artifacts, and somewhere out there were people who wanted to find them. Marcus made a decision. He would dig up 1 more crate tonight. He needed to understand exactly what his grandfather had left him before other people came looking for it. But first he had to figure out who he could trust. Because Dr. Kim was right about one thing. In a world of stolen treasures and government secrets, trust was the most dangerous thing of all. Rex seemed to understand the weight of the situation. The old dog stayed close to Marcus for the rest of the day, never letting him out of sight. It was like Rex knew that the real treasure hunt was just beginning, and that it might be more dangerous than either of them was ready for. Marcus spent the morning reading every page of his grandfather's notebook. The more he read, the more questions he had. His grandfather had written about government officials who couldn't be trusted, about recovered artifacts that disappeared into private collections, and about team members who had died under mysterious circumstances. The most troubling entry was from 1978. "Johnson is dead. They say it was a heart attack, but he was only 42 and in perfect health. He was asking too many questions about the items that never made it back to the official inventory. Williams thinks we're being watched. Maybe it's time to go underground. Completely." Marcus looked up from the notebook. Rex was lying by the door, but his ears were up and alert. The dog had been nervous all morning, getting up to look out the window every few minutes. "You feel it too, don't you, boy?" Marcus said. "Something's not right." Around noon, an old pickup truck pulled up to the gas station. The driver was a man in his 70s with white hair and military posture. He walked with a cane but moved, like a soldier. "You must be Marcus," the man said. "I'm Colonel Williams. I served with your grandfather in Vietnam." Marcus felt his heart speed up. Williams was mentioned several times in the notebook. According to his grandfather's notes, Williams was one of the few people he trusted completely. "Colonel Williams," Marcus said. "My grandfather wrote about you." Williams' eyes sharpened. "Did he now? What did he write?" "That you were part of his recovery team, that you helped him find stolen artifacts after the war." Williams looked around. The empty gas station, then at Rex. The old dog had come over and was sniffing Williams' hand. "Rex remembers me," Williams said, scratching behind the dog's ears. "Smart animal. Your grandfather trained him well." "Trained him for what?" Williams was quiet for a moment. Then he looked Marcus in the eye. "To protect what your grandfather couldn't return through official channels. To guard items that were too valuable or too dangerous to trust to government bureaucrats." Marcus felt relief wash over him. Finally, someone who might have answers. "Can we talk inside?" Williams asked. "What I have to tell you isn't for public ears." They went into the apartment. Williams accepted a cup of coffee and sat at the kitchen table. Rex lay down next to his chair. "Your grandfather was a good man," Williams began. "But the recovery work changed him. We saw too much corruption, Too many priceless items disappearing into private hands instead of going back to their rightful owners. So you decided to keep some items yourselves? Not for ourselves, Williams said firmly. To protect them until we could find the right way to return them. Do you know how many Nazi stolen artworks are still hanging in private mansions? How many cultural treasures are locked away in storage rooms where no one will ever see them? Williams pulled a folded paper from his pocket. It was a newspaper clipping from 6 months ago. Your grandfather didn't die of natural causes, Williams said quietly. Marcus felt the room spin. What do you mean? Heart attack, they said. But Frank was in excellent health, and he'd been asking questions about Dr. Kim and her organization. He thought they were planning to raid his property. Marcus thought about Dr. Kim's visit and her knowing smile. She came here last week. She seemed to know about Rex and the buried items. Williams nodded grimly. Sarah Kim works for a private organization that claims to recover stolen art, but they don't return it to the original owners. They sell it to wealthy collectors who don't ask questions about where it came from. But she said she worked for the government. She used to, until she realized how much money there was in the private market. Now she runs what's basically a legal theft operation. They find recovered items, claim them through government connections, and then sell them. Marcus felt sick. And you think she killed my grandfather? I think she had him killed when he wouldn't tell her where the items were hidden. Frank was the only one left who knew all the burial locations. The rest of our team is dead. Rex got up and went to the window. He stood there looking out at the desert, his body tense. Someone's coming, Williams said, following the dog's gaze. Marcus looked out and saw a black SUV driving slowly down the road toward the station. It stopped about 100 yards away. Back door, Williams said. Now. They slipped out the rear of the building. Williams moved surprisingly fast for his age. Rex led them to the old maintenance shed where they could watch the front of the station without being seen. 2 men in suits got out of the SUV. They weren't customers. They moved like professionals, checking the area before approaching the building. Kim's people. Williams whispered. They must have been watching, waiting for me to show up. The men went into the gas station. Through the windows, Marcus could see them searching the apartment. What are they looking for? Marcus asked. Your grandfather's notebook, maps, anything that would lead them to the buried items. Marcus felt the notebook in his back pocket. He'd been carrying it with him all day. I have the notebook, he whispered. Williams looked at him sharply. You found it? Where? In the first crate I dug up, along with stolen artwork and recovery documents. How many crates have you found? Just 1 so far, but the notebook mentions 5 more. Williams was quiet for a moment, thinking. The men were still, searching the apartment. We need to get those items before Kim does, Williams finally said. But not all at once. If we try to dig them all up tonight, we'll be caught. What do you suggest? We start with the most valuable crate. According to Frank's last letter to me, one of them contains items worth over $50 million. Marcus E. felt dizzy. $50 million buried in his backyard. Which crate? The one near the old well. Frank said Rex would know exactly where it is. They looked at Rex. The dog was still watching the front of the station, but his ears twitched when he heard Williams mention the well. The men came out of the building and got back in their SUV. But instead of driving away, they parked in the shade of a large boulder about a quarter mile down the road. They're going to watch the place, Williams said, waiting to see what we do. Marcus felt trapped. So what now? Now we wait until dark. Then we move fast. They spent the afternoon hiding in the shed. Williams told Marcus more about the recovery, missions, and the items they had found. Some pieces were ancient artifacts stolen from museums. Others were family heirlooms taken from Jewish families during the Holocaust. A few were military items that had been lost or stolen during various conflicts. Your grandfather kept detailed records of everything, Williams said. He wanted to make sure each item could eventually find its way back to where it belonged. But that was over 40 years ago. Most of the original owners are probably dead. Their families aren't. Their countries aren't. These items are part of human history. They belong in museums or with the families who lost them, not in some rich collector's private room. As the sun went down, Rex became more alert. He kept looking toward the back of the property, toward where William said the well was located. He knows it's time, William said. Frank trained him to understand the difference between daytime and nighttime operations. When it was fully dark, they made their move. Williams had a better flashlight than Marcus, and he moved through the desert like he'd done this many times before. Rex led them to an area Marcus had never explored. About half a mile from the main buildings was an old stone well that had been dry for decades. Near the well was a large flat rock. Under the rock, Williams said, it took both men to move the heavy stone. Underneath was a metal plate set into the ground. Williams pulled it up to reveal a waterproof container about the size of a small refrigerator. This is it, Williams said. The crown jewel of Frank's collection. Inside the container were 3 smaller crates. Williams opened the first one carefully. Even in the dim flashlight beam, Marcus could see that the contents were extraordinary. There were paintings by artists whose names Marcus recognized from art history classes. There were sculptures made of gold and precious stones. There were documents with official seals from countries around the world. My God, Marcus whispered. This crate alone is worth more than most people make in their entire lives, Williams said. But it's not about the money. These pieces are irreplaceable parts of human culture. Williams opened the second crate. This one contained jewelry and precious stones, each piece carefully wrapped and documented. The third crate was different. Instead of art and jewelry, it contained something that made both men stop breathing. It was filled with gold bars. Real gold, stamped with Nazi symbols and identification numbers. This is stolen Nazi gold, Williams said quietly. Your grandfather's team found a hidden cache in 1976. The government wanted to keep it quiet, so they told Frank to store it temporarily. Temporarily? That was 49 years ago. The government never came back for it. Marcus did quick math in his head. Even he knew that much gold was worth tens of millions of dollars. How much? He asked. Williams examined the bars more closely. At today's prices, maybe $80 million. Rex suddenly lifted his head and growled softly. In the distance, they could see flashlight beams moving around the gas station. They're searching the property, Williams said. We need to move. This tonight. Move it where? Somewhere safe. Somewhere Kim will never think to look. Williams looked at the gold bars, then at Marcus. Marcus and Williams worked quickly to move the gold bars to Williams' pickup truck. Each bar was heavy, and Marcus's artificial leg made the work harder. But adrenaline kept him going. In the distance, they could still see flashlight beams moving. Around the gas station. Where are we taking this? Marcus whispered as they loaded the last bar. My ranch, Williams said. It's 20 miles from here. I have a secure basement that nobody knows about. Rex jumped into the back of the truck with the gold. The old dog seemed to understand that this was important cargo that needed protecting. They drove with no headlights for the first mile, using only the moonlight to navigate the desert road. Once they were far enough from the gas station, Williams turned on the truck's lights. Tell me about the other burial sites, Williams said as they drove. Marcus pulled out his grandfather's notebook and read by the dim light of his phone. According to this, there are 4 more crates buried around the property. One contains more artwork, another has historical documents and maps, the third has weapons and military equipment. And the fourth? Marcus found the right page. This one's different. It just says insurance policy and gives GPS coordinates. Williams was quiet for a moment. Your grandfather was always careful. If he called something an insurance policy, it was probably the most important thing of all. They reached Williams' ranch house just after midnight. It was a simple building surrounded by empty land, but Marcus could see that it was well fortified. There were security cameras and motion sensors hidden around the property. Williams led them to a basement that was larger than it appeared from outside. The walls were concrete and the door was reinforced steel. Inside were shelves lined with books, files, and storage containers. I've been keeping Frank's secret safe for 40 years, Williams explained. This is where we stored items that were too dangerous to leave in official government hands. They carefully placed the gold bars in a climate-controlled safe. Williams locked it with both a key and a digital code. That's enough wealth to change your life forever, Williams said. But you need to understand something important. This gold doesn't legally belong to you yet. What do you mean? The recovery operations your grandfather worked on were semi-official. The government knew about them but kept them off the books. Technically, any recovered items still belong to the U.S. Treasury until they're officially released. Marcus felt confused. So I can't keep any of it? Not exactly. There are ways to make claims for recovered property, especially if you can prove the government has abandoned its responsibility to return items to their rightful owners. But it takes time and the right legal approach. Williams pulled out a thick file folder. I've been researching this for years. There are legal precedents for individuals claiming abandoned recovery items, especially when those items were being stored indefinitely without any plan for proper return. Marcus looked at the file. It contained legal documents, court cases, and government memos spanning decades. This is too complicated, Marcus said. I'm just a broken soldier trying to run a gas station. I don't know anything about international law or art recovery. Williams put a hand on Marcus's shoulder. Your grandfather didn't know about those things either when he started, but he learned. And he left detailed records because he knew someday someone would need to finish what he started. Rex had been exploring the basement. Now he came back and sat next to Marcus. The dog looked tired but alert. We need to go back and get the other crates before Kim's people find them, Williams said. But we have to be smart about it. How? We create a distraction. Make them think the most valuable items are somewhere else entirely. Williams went to his computer and showed Marcus satellite images of the gas station property. He had been studying the area for years. Tomorrow morning, you're going to call Dr. Kim, Williams said. You're going to tell her you found something interesting while digging near the front of the property, something that looks like it might be valuable. But there's nothing there. Exactly. While her people are digging in the wrong place, we'll be recovering the real treasures from the back of the property. Marcus wasn't sure about lying to government agents, even fake ones, but he was starting to understand that this was bigger than just buried treasure. These items represented stolen pieces of human history. If Dr. Kim got them, they would disappear into private collections and never be seen again. They drove back to the gas station at dawn. The black SUV was gone, but Williams was sure it would be back. Act normal today, Williams told Marcus. Sell gas, talk to customers, do whatever you usually do. But tonight, we're going after the rest of the crates. Marcus spent the day trying to act like nothing had changed. But every customer made him nervous. Every car that drove past made him wonder if it was watching him. Rex seemed to sense his anxiety. The dog stayed close, never leaving Marcus's side for more than a few minutes. Around noon, Marcus called Dr. Kim. Dr. Kim, this is Marcus Rivera. I think I found something you might be interested in. Oh, really? What kind of something? I was digging near the front of my property trying to fix a water line. I found what looks like an old military container. It has markings on it that I don't recognize. There was a pause. Can you describe these markings? Marcus made up details based on things he'd seen in his grandfather's notes. There are numbers and letters and what looks like a Nazi eagle symbol. Don't touch anything else, Dr. Kim said quickly. I'll be there tomorrow morning with a team. And Marcus, don't mention this to anyone else. After hanging up, Marcus felt sick. He was lying to people who had probably killed his grandfather. But Williams was right. They needed time to secure the real treasures. That evening, Williams returned with more equipment. He brought a portable metal detector, better shovels, and a small trailer to carry larger items. Rex will show us where the other crates are, Williams said. He's been guarding them for your grandfather all these years. They waited until it was completely dark. Then Rex led them to the second burial site. This one was near a large cactus about 300 yards from the gas station. The crate they found contained more artwork, but these pieces were different. Instead of paintings and sculptures, this crate held ancient artifacts. There were pottery, pieces that looked thousands of years old, jewelry from civilizations Marcus had only read about in history books, and stone tablets covered with writing he couldn't read. "My God," Williams whispered as he examined a golden mask. "This is from a tomb in Egypt. It was stolen during World War II and never recovered. How much is it worth?" "You can't put a price on something like this. It belongs in a museum. It's part of human history." The third crate was buried near the property's fence line. This one contained military items, medals, weapons, uniforms, and documents from various conflicts. Some items were American, but others were from Germany, Japan, and other countries. "Your grandfather collected evidence," Williams explained. "Proof of war crimes, documentation of stolen property, records that certain people wanted to disappear." Marcus found a folder marked "Insurance Policy, Do Not Open Unless Necessary." Inside were photographs and documents that made his blood run cold. They showed government officials taking recovered items for themselves instead of returning them to rightful owners. They showed Dr. Kim meeting with private collectors and taking money for lost artifacts. "This is what got my grandfather killed," Marcus said. "And it's what will protect you," Williams replied. "Insurance policies work both ways." Rex led them to the fourth burial site. This crate was the largest yet, buried near the old maintenance shed. Inside were more gold items, coins, jewelry, and small sculptures made of precious metals. But at the bottom of the crate was something unexpected. It was a modern safety deposit box key with a number written on it. "Bank deposit box," William said. "Your grandfather hid something in a bank vault." The key was from a bank in Los Angeles. The number on it suggested it was a large safety deposit box, the kind used for very valuable items. "We'll have to deal with that later," Williams said. "First, we need to find the fifth crate." Rex was already moving toward the final location. This burial site was the furthest from the gas station, almost at the edge of the property. When they reached the spot, Rex sat down and whined softly. "What's wrong, boy?" Marcus asked. Williams checked the ground with his metal detector. "There's definitely something here, but it's deep. Much deeper than the others." They started digging. After an hour, they were 4 feet down and still hadn't found anything. Marcus was getting tired and frustrated. Then Rex did something he had never done before. He jumped into the hole and started digging frantically with his paws. His whining became more urgent. "He's trying to tell us something," William said. Marcus followed Rex's lead and dug where the dog was pawing. Suddenly, his shovel hit something that wasn't dirt or rock. It was metal, but it was huge. Working together, they uncovered what looked like the entrance to an underground room. There was a metal hatch built into a concrete frame, hidden 6 feet below ground level. Williams found a handle and pulled the hatch open. Cool air flowed out along with the smell of metal and plastic. Marcus shined his flashlight into the opening. What he saw made him gasp. Marcus barely slept that night. His mind was spinning with everything he had discovered. By dawn, he and Williams had moved the most valuable items from the underground vault to Williams' secure ranch. They left enough behind to make it look like they hadn't found everything yet. Rex seemed to understand that today would be dangerous. The old dog stayed close to Marcus and kept watching the road for approaching vehicles. Dr. Kim arrived at 9 in the morning with a team of 6 men. They drove 3 black SUVs and brought professional digging equipment. Marcus could see they were prepared for serious excavation work. "Good morning, Marcus," Dr. Kim said with her fake smile. "I'm very excited to see what you found." Marcus led them to the area near the front of the property, where he claimed to have found the mysterious container. He had buried an old military supply box there the night before, filled with junk to make it look authentic. Dr. Kim's team went to work immediately. They used metal detectors and ground-penetrating radar to scan the area. Within an hour, they had located the fake container. "Excellent work," Dr. Kim told Marcus as her team dug it up. "This appears to be a German supply crate from World War II. Marcus watched nervously as they opened the box. Inside were some old tools, a few pieces of military equipment, and documents he had created to look authentic. Nothing valuable, but Enough to keep Dr. Kim's attention. Interesting, Dr. Kim said, examining the fake documents. These suggest there might be more items buried in this area. We'll need to do a complete survey of your property. The whole property? Marcus asked. Of course. Your grandfather may have buried items all over this land. We need to make sure we find everything. Marcus felt his heart sink. If Dr. Kim's team searched the entire property, they would eventually find the real burial sites. But Williams had prepared for this possibility. At noon, a new vehicle arrived at the gas station. It was a van from the County Historical Society, driven by a woman in her 60s. Mr. Rivera, the woman said, I'm Professor Janet Martinez from the university. I understand you found some historical artifacts on your property. Dr. Kim stepped forward quickly. I'm Dr. Sarah Kim representing the Federal Recovery Division. This is a government investigation. Professor Martinez looked at Dr. Kim's credentials carefully. I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding, she said. This property has been designated as a potential historical site. Any artifacts found here must be processed through the State Historical Preservation Office. Dr. Kim's face showed anger for the first time. That's not how this works. Federal recovery operations take priority over state historical claims. Not according to the court order I have here, Professor Martinez said, handing Dr. Kim an official-looking document. Marcus tried not to smile. Williams had arranged this perfectly. The court order was real, filed just that morning through legal contacts Williams had maintained for decades. Dr. Kim spent an hour on her phone, trying to get the court order overturned. But the paperwork was solid. Her team would have to stop digging until the legal issues were resolved. This isn't over, Dr. Kim told Marcus as her team packed up their equipment. We'll be back with proper federal authorization. After they left, Professor Martinez revealed that she was actually working with Williams. She was a real professor, but also someone who had helped Williams and Marcus's grandfather return stolen artifacts to their rightful owners over the years. That will buy you maybe 2 weeks, she told Marcus. Dr. Kim has connections in Washington. She'll get authorization to override the state historical claim. 2 weeks to do what? To authenticate everything you've found and establish legal ownership claims before Kim can seize it all. Williams had already contacted experts around the country. Over the next few days, art historians, archaeological specialists, and legal experts came to examine the recovered items. The first expert was Dr. Robert Chen, an art historian from the Getty Museum in Los Angeles. He examined the paintings and sculptures with intense focus. These are extraordinary, Dr. Chen said. This painting here is by Degas. It was stolen from a private collection in Paris in 1943. The family has been looking for it for 80 years. He moved to another piece. And this sculpture is ancient Greek, probably from the 5th century BC. It disappeared from a museum in Athens during World War II. Dr. Chen worked for 3 days, cataloging and photographing every art piece. His final report was stunning. The artwork alone is worth over $40 million, he told Marcus. But more importantly, these pieces represent irreplaceable cultural heritage. They belong in museums where people can see them. The second expert was Dr. Sarah Goldstein, a specialist in Holocaust recovery items. She examined the Jewish artifacts and documents with tears in her eyes. This jewelry belonged to the Rosenberg family from Vienna, she said, holding a delicate necklace. They were killed in concentration camps, but their relatives in America have been trying to recover family heirlooms for decades. She found item after item that could be traced to specific families. Your grandfather kept incredible records. He documented exactly where each piece came from and who it belonged to. This makes returning items much easier. The third expert was Dr. Michael Torres, a military historian who specialized in recovered war materials. He examined the weapons, uniforms, and military documents. Some of this equipment was never supposed to leave military custody, he said. But given that it's been abandoned by the government for 49 years, you have a strong legal claim to ownership. Dr. Torres was particularly interested in the documents from Marcus's grandfather's insurance policy file. These photos show government officials taking recovered items for personal profit, he said. This is evidence of federal crimes. It's also evidence that the government never intended to properly process these recovered materials. The final expert was Dr. Lisa Park, a legal specialist in international artifact recovery. She spent 2 days reviewing all the documentation and legal precedents. "Your case is very strong," she told Marcus. "The government initiated these recovery operations but then abandoned them. Under federal abandonment laws, you can claim ownership of items that have been stored without government action for more than 20 years. All of it? Not everything. Items that clearly belong to specific families or countries should be returned. But items with unclear ownership, items that were legally salvaged, and items abandoned by the government can become your legal property." Dr. Park estimated that Marcus could legally keep about 60% of the recovered items. The rest should be returned to rightful owners. "Even 60% of this collection would make you extremely wealthy," she said. "The gold alone is worth over $50 million at current prices." Marcus felt overwhelmed by the numbers. $50 million. More money than he could spend in several lifetimes. But Williams reminded him that money wasn't the most important thing. "Your grandfather didn't keep these items to get rich," Williams said. "He kept them to protect them until they could be properly returned. Now you have the chance to finish his work." Over the following week, Marcus and the experts created detailed plans for returning items to their rightful owners. They contacted families, museums, and governments around the world. The response was incredible. Families who had given up hope of ever recovering their ancestors' possessions wept with joy when they learned their items had been found. Museums offered to display returned artifacts with special exhibits honoring Marcus's grandfather's recovery work. But not everyone was happy about Marcus's plans. Dr. Kim called him repeatedly, offering to buy specific items for private collectors. When Marcus refused, her offers became threats. "You're making a mistake," she told him during one call. "These items are worth more than you understand. My clients are prepared to pay very well for them." "They're not for sale," Marcus said. "Everything is for sale at the right price. And people don't like to take no for an answer." The threats worried Williams. He hired private security to watch Marcus's property and installed better security systems at his ranch. "Kim is desperate," Williams explained. "She's probably promised these items to collectors who have already paid her. If she can't deliver, she's in serious trouble." Rex seemed to sense the increased danger. The old dog rarely left Marcus's side now, and he barked at every unfamiliar sound. Then one night, Marcus woke up to Rex growling low and urgent. Through the window, he could see flashlight beams moving around the property. "They're back," Marcus whispered into his phone as he called Williams. "I'm on my way," Williams said. "Stay inside and keep Rex with you." Marcus watched from the window as several figures searched the area where the underground vault was hidden. They had sophisticated equipment and moved like professionals, but they were searching in the wrong place. Williams and Marcus had reburied the entrance to the vault and made the area look undisturbed. The searchers found nothing. After an hour, they gave up and left. But Marcus knew they would be back. The next morning, Dr. Park arrived with final legal documents. "I've filed ownership claims for all the items that qualify under abandonment laws," she said. "I've also filed notices to return items to their rightful owners. Everything is now legally protected." "What does that mean?" "It means Dr. Kim can't legally seize anything without proving government ownership." Marcus stood in the underground vault one last time before sealing it permanently. The shelves that had once held priceless artifacts were now mostly empty. Over the past month, he had made the hardest decisions of his life about what to keep and what to return. Rex sat beside him watching quietly. The old dog seemed to understand that this chapter of their story was ending. "Grandpa would be proud," Marcus said, running his hand along the empty shelves. "Most of this is going back where it belongs." The decision hadn't been easy. The total value of everything his grandfather had hidden was over $200 million. Marcus could have kept it all and lived like a king for the rest of his life, but every time he held one of the stolen items, he thought about the families who had lost them. The hardest decision was about a small painting by Monet. It had been stolen from a Jewish family in France during World War II. The family had all died in concentration camps, and there were no living relatives to claim it. Legally, Marcus could have kept the painting. It was worth about $8 million. But he knew it belonged in a museum where people could see it and remember the family who had loved it first. "Take it to the Holocaust Museum in Washington," he told Dr. Chen when he handed over the painting. "Put a plaque next to it with the family's name. Let people know their story." Dr. Chen had tears in his eyes when he accepted the painting. "Your grandfather would be very proud of this decision," he said. Marcus kept the Nazi gold, the ancient coins, some of the jewelry with no clear ownership, and a few pieces of military equipment that belonged to his grandfather's recovery team. Even after returning most of the collection, he was still worth over $60 million. But the money felt different now. It wasn't just wealth, it was responsibility. The media attention started when the first families received their recovered items. A Jewish family in New York got their grandmother's wedding ring back after 80 years. A Greek museum recovered ancient artifacts that had been missing since World War II. A French family received paintings that had hung in their great-grandfather's house before the Nazis took them. Each return ceremony made national news. Marcus was invited to attend, but he usually stayed home. This wasn't about getting famous. It was about doing what was right. Rex became famous whether Marcus wanted it or not. Pictures of the treasure dog appeared in newspapers around the world. People called him a hero dog who had protected priceless artifacts for years after his master died. But not everyone was happy about Marcus's choices. Dr. Kim's organization filed lawsuits trying to claim the remaining items. Private collectors offered him enormous amounts of money for specific pieces. Some people accused him of being stupid for giving away a fortune. "You could have kept everything," said a reporter during a phone interview. "Why give it away?" Marcus thought about the question for a long time. "Because it was never really mine," he finally said. "I was just keeping it safe until it could go home." The lawsuits from Dr. Kim's organization were quickly dismissed. Dr. Park's legal work had been thorough, and the evidence of government corruption made it impossible for Dr. Kim to claim official authority. But Dr. Kim herself disappeared after the lawsuits failed. Williams heard rumors that she had fled the country to avoid criminal charges related to her private artifact selling business. "Good riddance," Williams said. "Your grandfather would have loved to see your operation shut down." The most meaningful ceremony happened 3 months later. The French government invited Marcus to Paris to attend the return of 12 stolen paintings to various museums and families. They also wanted to honor his grandfather's work. Marcus almost didn't go. He still had nightmares about the war, and traveling felt overwhelming. But Williams convinced him it was important. "Your grandfather never got the recognition he deserved," Williams said. "Let him have this moment even if he's not here to see it." The ceremony was held at the Louvre Museum. Marcus sat in the front row with Rex, who had been specially cleared to travel to France. Government officials spoke about the importance of returning stolen cultural heritage. Family members cried as they saw their ancestors' paintings for the first time in decades. But the most powerful moment came when a small girl, maybe 8 years old, approached the painting that had belonged to her great-great-grandmother. "Mama," the girl said in French, "is this really ours?" Her mother nodded, crying. "Yes, sweetheart. This is what the bad people took from our family long ago. Now it's coming home." Marcus watched the little girl stare at the painting with wonder. She would grow up knowing this piece of her family's history. Her children would know the story too. That was worth more than any amount of money. After the ceremony, Marcus was approached by representatives from several international organizations. They wanted him to join efforts to recover other stolen artifacts around the world. "Your grandfather's methods were unique," said Dr. Elizabeth Harper from UNESCO. "He kept better records than most official recovery operations. We could use that expertise to help other families find their lost heritage." Marcus wasn't sure he was ready for that kind of responsibility, but he agreed to think about it. The flight back to California was long, and Marcus had time to think about everything that had changed in his life. 6 months ago, he had been a broken soldier, with no purpose and no future. Now he was wealthy, beyond imagination, and had the chance to continue his grandfather's important work. But the most important change was how he felt about himself. The nightmares were still there, but they were getting better. Having a purpose, protecting and returning stolen artifacts, gave him something positive to focus on. Rex slept in the seat next to him during the flight. The old dog was tired from all the travel and excitement, but he seemed content. His job guarding his master's secrets was finally complete. When they got back to the gas station, Marcus made another important decision. Instead of selling the property or abandoning it, he would transform it into something meaningful. He hired contractors to renovate the building and expand it. The gas station would become a veterans support center, offering counseling, job training, and temporary housing for soldiers transitioning back to civilian life. "Your grandfather always helped people who needed it," William said when Marcus told him about the plan. "This is perfect." The center would also include a small museum displaying some of the military artifacts Marcus had kept. Visitors could learn about art recovery operations and the importance of returning stolen cultural heritage. Marcus used $10 million of his inheritance to fund the center. It would be enough to operate for decades, helping thousands of veterans. But he kept enough money to live comfortably and to continue funding artifact recovery efforts around the world. He wasn't interested in buying expensive cars or huge houses. He wanted to use his wealth to make a difference. The grand opening of the Veterans Center was held on a warm desert morning. Over 100 people attended, including veterans, local residents, and officials from various military organizations. Marcus gave a short speech about his grandfather's legacy and the importance of helping fellow veterans. But the real stars of the day were the veterans who would be helped by the center. "This place saved my life," said one young veteran who had been homeless before coming to the center. "I didn't know how to live as a civilian. Now I have hope. Again." Rex, now wearing a special collar marking him as an official therapy dog, spent the day visiting with veterans. Many of them were dealing with PTSD and other war injuries. Rex seemed to understand their pain and offered comfort just by being present. That evening, Marcus sat on the porch of his renovated apartment above the center. Rex lay beside him, watching the sunset paint the desert in brilliant colors. A car pulled up and Williams got out. He was carrying a bottle of champagne and a letter. "From the French government," Williams said, handing Marcus the letter. "They want to give you the Legion of Honor for your work returning stolen art." Marcus read the letter twice. It was the highest honor France could give to a civilian. "Grandpa should be getting this, not me," Marcus said. "Your grandfather got something better," Williams replied. "He got to see his life's work completed by someone he loved." They opened the champagne and toasted to Frank Rivera, to recovered treasures, and to new beginnings. As the stars appeared in the clear desert sky, Marcus felt something he hadn't experienced since before the war: peace. He had found his purpose, and it was bigger than just making money or becoming famous. He was continuing his grandfather's mission to protect history and help people heal. And he had Rex to help him do it. The old dog looked up at Marcus and wagged his tail, as if he knew that their real adventures were just beginning. 2 years after finding his grandfather's hidden treasure, Marcus Rivera stood in the main hall of the Rivera Veterans Recovery Center, watching Rex work his magic with a young Marine who had just returned from deployment. The Marine, Tony, was only 22, but his eyes looked much older. He sat on the floor with Rex, running his fingers through the old dog's gray fur while tears streamed down his face. "I keep seeing my buddies who didn't make it home," Tony whispered to Rex. "How do I live with that?" Rex couldn't answer with words, but his calm presence said everything that mattered. The dog had become legendary among the veterans who came to the center. Somehow, Rex understood their pain in a way that humans sometimes couldn't. Marcus walked over quietly and sat down next to Tony. "That dog lost his best friend too," Marcus said softly. "My grandfather raised Rex from a puppy. When Grandpa died, Rex grieved for months. But he found a new purpose helping me. Maybe that's what we all have to do. Find new purposes." Tony looked up at Marcus. Does it ever stop hurting? No, Marcus said honestly. But it gets easier to carry the weight when you're helping other people carry theirs. The center had grown far beyond what Marcus had originally imagined. What started as a simple veteran support facility now included housing for 20 veterans, job training programs, counseling services, and a nationally recognized PTSD treatment program. The key to the program's success was Rex. The old dog had an almost supernatural ability to sense when veterans were struggling. He would appear beside them during panic attacks, nightmares, or moments of despair. His presence alone seemed to calm the worst symptoms. Dr. Amanda Foster, the center's head psychologist, had written several research papers about Rex's therapeutic abilities. I've never seen anything like it, she told Marcus during one of their weekly meetings. Rex seems to know exactly when someone is about to have a breakdown. He'll go sit with them before they even realize they're in trouble. Marcus nodded. He had seen it himself countless times. Rex would suddenly get up from wherever he was resting and walk directly to a veteran who was struggling, sometimes in a completely different part of the building. Maybe he recognizes the signs because he's been through trauma too, Marcus suggested. Losing my grandfather was probably like losing a battle buddy. The center had helped over 300 veterans in its first 2 years. Some stayed for a few weeks while transitioning to civilian jobs. Others needed longer-term support. A few had become permanent staff members, using their own healing journey to help others. Marcus's favorite success story was Sarah Chen, a Navy veteran who had arrived at the center unable to sleep or hold down a job. Rex had spent entire nights lying beside her bed during her worst episodes. Now Sarah ran the center's job training program and was engaged to another veteran she had met there. Rex saved my life, Sarah often told visitors. When I couldn't trust humans anymore, I could trust him. He taught me that healing was possible. The museum portion of the center had also grown. Marcus had decided to display more of the military artifacts his grandfather had recovered, along with the complete story of the international art recovery. Operations odd visitors came from around the world to see the exhibit and learn about the importance of returning stolen cultural heritage. The most popular display showed photographs of families being reunited with their recovered treasures, including the little French girl Marcus had met in Paris. But the center wasn't just about helping veterans and displaying artifacts. Marcus had also established the Rivera Foundation, which funded artifact recovery operations worldwide. Working with international law enforcement and cultural organizations, the foundation had already helped return over 50 stolen artworks to their rightful owners. They had also funded the training of local investigators in countries where cultural heritage was being looted. Your grandfather's work continues, Williams told Marcus during one of his regular visits, but now it's bigger than he ever imagined. Williams, now in his 80s, served as the foundation's chief advisor. His decades of experience in artifact recovery made him invaluable in planning operations and training new investigators. Rex had also become an international celebrity. A children's book about the treasure dog had become a bestseller, with all proceeds going to veterans' charities. Documentary filmmakers had made a movie about his story that won several awards. But fame hadn't changed Rex. He remained focused on his work at the center, spending his days moving between veterans who needed comfort and support. Marcus often marveled at how much his life had changed. The broken soldier who had inherited a failing gas station was now running a multi-million-dollar foundation and one of the most successful veterans centers in the country. But some things remained the same. He still lived in the simple apartment above the center. He still drove an old pickup truck, and he still woke up sometimes from nightmares about Afghanistan. The difference was that now he had purpose. Every day brought new opportunities to help veterans heal and to return stolen pieces of history to their rightful homes. One morning, Marcus received a call that would lead to their biggest success yet. Dr. Elizabeth Harper from UNESCO had information about a massive cache of stolen artifacts hidden in a private warehouse in Switzerland. We think it contains items worth over $1 billion, Dr. Harper explained. But we need someone with your grandfather's expertise to help authenticate and trace the ownership of individual pieces. Marcus agreed to lead the operation. He had learned a lot about artifact recovery over the past 2 years, and the Foundation now had the resources to fund major international efforts. The Switzerland operation took 6 months to plan and execute. Working with Swiss authorities and international law enforcement, Marcus's team recovered over 2,000 stolen artifacts dating back centuries. Among the recovered items were paintings stolen from Jewish families during the Holocaust, ancient sculptures taken from archaeological sites in Greece and Egypt, and cultural treasures looted from various countries during times of war. The authentication process took another year, but eventually, almost everything was traced to its rightful owners. Families around the world received treasures they had given up hope of ever seeing again. The operation made international headlines and established the Rivera Foundation as the world's leading private organization for artifact recovery. But for Marcus, the most meaningful moment came when they returned a small wooden carving to an elderly Native American man in Arizona. The carving had been taken from his tribe over a century ago and had passed through multiple private collections before ending up in the Swiss warehouse. "My great-grandfather made this with his own hands," the old man said, holding the carving and crying. "I never thought I would see it again." That night, Marcus sat with Rex on the porch of the center, watching the desert sunset. The old dog was moving more slowly now and his eyesight was getting worse, but his spirit remained strong. "You did good work today, boy," Marcus said, scratching behind Rex's ears. "Grandpa would be proud of both of us." Rex's tail wagged slowly. At 12 years old, he was getting near the end of his life, but he seemed content with what he had accomplished. The next morning brought sad news. Rex had difficulty getting up from his bed and seemed to be in pain. Marcus rushed him to the veterinary hospital, but the diagnosis wasn't good. "He's lived a remarkable life for a dog his age," the veterinarian said gently. "But his body is wearing out. You might want to consider making him as comfortable as possible for whatever time he has left." Marcus brought Rex home and created a special bed for him in the center's main room, where he could still interact with the veterans but wouldn't have to move around much. Word spread quickly among the veterans at the center. Over the next few days, a steady stream of people came to spend time with Rex. Veterans who had been helped by the old dog wanted to return the favor by keeping him company. Tony, the young Marine who had been one of Rex's recent success stories, spent hours reading to the dog. Sarah Chen brought Rex his favorite treats and told him stories about all the veterans he had helped over the years. "He's not just a dog," Sarah said to Marcus one evening. "He's been like a therapist, a best friend, and a guardian angel all rolled into one." Rex lived for 3 more weeks surrounded by the love of the veterans he had helped heal. He passed away peacefully in his sleep on a quiet Sunday morning, with Marcus holding his paw. The funeral for Rex was unlike anything the small desert community had ever seen. Over 500 people attended, including veterans from around the country, government officials, and representatives from organizations Rex had helped through his work. Marcus gave a short eulogy about Rex's loyalty, his service, and his incredible ability to heal broken hearts. But the most moving moment came when a group of veterans stood up and recited a poem they had written together about how Rex had saved their lives. Rex was buried behind the center, under a large desert oak tree. His headstone read, "Rex Rivera, faithful guardian, healer of hearts, protector of treasures and souls." After the funeral, Marcus felt lost. Rex had been his constant companion for 3 years, his partner in discovering the buried treasures and his co-therapist in helping veterans heal. But the work continued.